Hello, friends. Happy New Year. So delighted that you're here on this Saturday afternoon, at least in Los Angeles. It's Saturday afternoon. And I'm very excited to share with you some of my thoughts about the new year. And people are arriving still as we're getting underway, but I like to be prompt. I'm a prompt girl. So we're beginning. As you can see, obviously, I'm sharing my screen with you now, and I will have this video up for a little bit. I know that sometimes it stops and freezes, but it's nice, at least initially, to connect and to see my face. And I wish I could see yours, but I like to begin this way at least. So here we are, 2013. I hope that for all of you, the year has begun with grace. And I hope that it has begun with ease and with a certain flow. And, so often we sort of brace ourselves for, the new year. I mean, there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of what we'll do differently, but there's also a lot of the unknown. So I hope you gently moved into this new year. What I'll be doing today is not so much for those of you that know me, there are a lot of new people, which is glorious. But for those of you that know me, you know that I'm not hugely into prediction. I'm very much into how can we together look at the energies available and work with them to the best. How can we meet them? How can we dance with them? Not so much what are these energies going to do to us, not so much what are these planets going to do to us, but what is the texture of the time and how can we move with it with grace. So we're gonna look at every outer planet, so Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, because those are the slow moving planets, and we're gonna look at what positions they are throughout the year. And we're gonna look at what that means for us, what raw material is there for us, what that means for us in terms of what's available, what tools are available for us to use. Now, I just want to tell you, when I was at my daughter's school right before Christmas break, and this will say something about my daughter's school, but I found these glorious little astrological dice in the store, that they have a little tiny store associated with the school. And on one dice or on one die are the planets, and on the other one are the signs. I fell in love with this. For me, it's like astrological tarot or something. And what I've been doing since January 1st is every morning I have been just throwing these die and contemplating what the combination means for the day. I'm just using it as a little sweet invitation or reminder or opportunity for each day to meditate on something. So I thought it would be interesting if today right before we began, if I just roll the die and got a sort of general wash of the new year or a general whisper of the new year. And what I came up with, what I rolled was Uranus in Cancer, which is interesting because Uranus takes 84 years to go around a chart and it won't be in Cancer for quite a while. But Uranus in Cancer, for me, the message was very much in a parallel with what I'm going to be talking to you about today. It has a tremendous amount to do with breaking with the old ways. And it has a tremendous amount to do with radical new self care. So it's not so much about all the traditional ways we've been doing things. Uranus in Cancer says, how can we care for ourselves at a deeper level? How can we care for ourselves in a new way? How can we care for others in a new way? How can we nourish others in a new way? So, and it's definitely, definitely, definitely a break with the past. And there's so much going on this year that continues to have to do with old structures falling away in your own life, in your own emotional and physical and mental makeup, but also in the world for sure. So I thought that was just a nice little indication. It's like it's authenticity and freedom, and at the same time, profound sensitivity and profound nourishment. In a way, I would say, how can we move into this year? And so many teachers right now are speaking about this in an interesting way, that how can we move into this year not so much linearly thinking about what do I need to do, what do I need to accomplish, what book do I need to write, but instead how we want to feel and how we want to breathe in our day, and who we want to include and what we want to include. I mean, Cancer, as I've often said, grows spherically. So it includes more and more and more. So the opportunity here with this little Uranus and Cancer dice roll is to just look at how we can turn things upside down and look at our lives in a new way and say, is there a better way that I can take care of myself? Is there a better way I can take care of my family? Is there a better way that I can take care of those that I have chosen to take responsibility for? Um, so I love the idea of the dice, and I hope I do it every day, because I think it's a little whisper of what's potential in each day. Now, for those of you that know me as well, you know I'm a big lover of poetry. And I think poetry cuts right to the essence of things. And also, right before Christmas, I discovered an incredible poet who I adore already. And I keep buying her books and giving them away, and I'll continue to do so. But the book looks like this. It's M. Claire. Her name is M. Claire. And there are two short poems that I just want to launch our exploration with. All right. And the first one is simply called Ready. You never really know when it will come, rising, laying foot into the same imprint you've made yesterday and the day before, and yes, eternally before. But sometime that superbly hairline crack in your well-preserved casing will suffer a grace. So I love that poem because it speaks to the new year. It speaks to how we are such habitual beings, and we do things over and over and over and over again, rising, laying foot into the same imprint you've made yesterday and the day before, and yes, eternally before. But then this idea of this casing, this habitual behavior will suffer a grace, because it's a grace, my friends, when we are opened, when an old way of doing things is cracked open. And I believe there's so much potential for that in the new year, and I'm certainly feeling it already. What is it to make a minute change? It's that actually opens your world in a whole new way. What is it to say no when you always say yes? Um, so I hope that we all suffer a grace this year, and it might be uncomfortable, but it will be also exquisitely beautiful, because that's how we change. Okay. And then the other poem that I am is also by M. Claire. These are short little kisses. She reminds me of Hafiz or Rumi. She's a sort of female Hafiz. But this is again a very appropriate for New Year, and it's called Be Received. Move slowly from these old skins. Your belly is raw, your back is tender. You are rudimentary now. Move softly from these old skins. Let the full body weight of all your innocence down. Be received. Be received by the broad earth of your worthiness. Cast off everything everyone else has known for you. Move gratefully from these old skins. And this time, if you toughen, decide for whom. Yeah. So this beautiful moving slowly, moving softly, moving gratefully from these old skins. Don't we all want that? Don't we all want the new, the reinvention? There's so much about reinvention that's just inherent in the new year that we can work with. And particularly now with Uranus and Aries, reinvention is strong for all of us. But we move gratefully from these old skins too, because the skins served us. but this rawness that we can come out and keeping our heart open. You know, another way of saying that last line is, if you decide to close your heart again, why and for whom? So, in fact, maybe some of you can see, I love this picture. I wish I had the, look at this, it's so gorgeous. I think it's a yoga studio in Seattle, I want to say, and they put it on their blog and I just fell in love with it. Isn't it great? Ah, love it, big heart. So now, my friends, let us look at the astrology of this moment, because we're going to just briefly look at this. We're going to look at um, three parts of this. And, you know, for those of you that don't know astrology well, don't worry. I'm just going to use it, let it wash over you. I'm going to use the language of astrology. And for those of you that are wanting to learn astrology, by the way, I'm starting a wonderful new class next Tuesday called Charting Your Course 2013, where we go into every single position in your chart. So you would learn each week a new position. You'd learn about Neptune, you'd learn about Pluto, you'd learn about Saturn, very in depth. And I'm so excited to teach that. So I'll give you the link to that by the time we finish up. But for the moment, here is the webinar beginning time. And three things here. Neptune is at the top of the chart. Neptune is the god of inspiration. Neptune is the god of poetry. Neptune is the god of whispering grace. Neptune, what I see from this chart is like, let this hour, these minutes be a wash of inspiration for you. Astrological, poetical, the time that you've taken for yourself, this sanctuary time to think about your new year. Whenever there's a planet that is elevated in the chart, that's the highest planet, and it's clearly elevated, it means this is important. So this is the planet of unconditional love, self-forgiveness, self-compassion, compassion in the world, inspiration, and imagination. So let that be a sounding note for us today. Also, many of you know the rising sign over here, the far left position here is such an important sign, and we begin with Gemini rising. Gemini is such an important sign of connection and world goodwill and fellowship and bringing our gifts together and weaving a tapestry of love. Gemini is a sign of love, wisdom, and we develop wisdom by sharing our knowledge and by sharing our love and by fusing those. So anytime, you know, anytime something is being taught or shared or communicated, or there's a message, Gemini rising is a beautiful placement to have. So, and here we are connecting, here we are sharing some thoughts about this new year. Also, speaking of the worldwide community, and it's always so beautiful on these webinars to see people from all over the world. And here we are with Uranus in the 11th house of community. And this is the worldwide community. And this is the new community. We are able to forge such a new way of connecting on the internet, for sure. And hopefully our little seed group of this group of people will be inspired by this hour, by the astrological energies with which you can work. And something is planted in this moment. It's almost like something is planted that we say, yes, we will launch into our new year with grace. Yes, we will launch into our new year with light, and we will shed the skins. So there's something beautiful about community, relationship, inspiration. Um, and yeah, and I will also say here, Pluto and Mercury are sitting right next to each other. And this is, you know, this is for the next several days. And this is potent. This is in-depth, deep thought. And it's also the opportunity for you to break up old thought patterns, for you to address things that you have been thinking over and over again and crack them open with something new. Pluto, Mercury wants to get to the heart of the matter. It wants to dive deep, and it wants to heal what it finds there. So those are just a few little things about this particular moment. Now, what I want to do now is look at, we're going to break this down for the year. We're going to break down, we're going to look at Jupiter in Gemini. We're going to look at Saturn in Scorpio. We're going to look at Uranus in Aries, Neptune in Pisces, and Pluto in Capricorn. Because again, these are the slow moving planets and they are the textures with which we are working. So without further ado, let's do that. So Jupiter, which takes 12 years to go around a chart, is in the sign of Gemini. It's already been there for 6 months. It will be there another 6 months. It will be in the sign of Gemini until June 25th, at which point it will move into Cancer. So, anyone with birthdays between approximately May 28th and June 21st, those are the Gemini birthdays, you will have Jupiter hit your sun in these 6 months. And Jupiter hitting the sun is a time of incredible expansion. Now, for all of us, Jupiter in Gemini has to do with big connections, big building of relationships, networking. But at the deepest level, Jupiter and Gemini are both energies of love, wisdom. And so it really has to do with fusion. It has to do with bringing things together for the good. So one of the questions that I would ask you um, to consider with Jupiter in Gemini is, how does my contribution increase the flow of love or the deepening of wisdom on our planet? Now that's a big question, but that is the kind of question that Jupiter in Gemini wants to ask. It is not just interested in a multitude of facts or a scattering of energy, which is possible with Jupiter and Gemini, because Gemini is interested in so many different things, and Jupiter says, yes, 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 go follow them all. Scatter, in a way, it could scatter all your energies. But on another hand, Jupiter and Gemini can ask you also, how can I live more from a still magnetic point rather than wildly scatter my energies and my message? So I noticed it last year when Jupiter moved into Gemini around the summertime. It's like even more than ever, this prolific energy online of getting our message out, getting our word out. Here's what I have to say. Here are the classes that I'm teaching. It just amped up hugely. And it's an incredible opportunity for us all to share our gift. But always with the end in sight about, how does this increase the love wisdom on our planet, and how can I bring people and ideas together instead of scattering them? How can I bring them together and build bridges? So in this second half of Jupiter in Gemini, all the way up till June 25th, for your own message, it could be a very stilling time where you take the first 6 months that was so stimulating and like, oh my gosh, I want to write this book. Oh my gosh, I want to teach this class. Oh my gosh, I want to develop this in my work, or I want to, whatever it is, the kind of excitement with which Jupiter and Gemini can bring. And the second half can be a quieter fusion, a quieter coming together, a stilling, a wisdom. Um, Venus rules Gemini at the esoteric level. So Venus is the planet of love and beauty and fusion. So how do you bring these beautiful people or beautiful ideas together, and the power and potency of all the relationships we're forming in the world? It's a very exciting time, Jupiter and Gemini. And so also anybody that's Aquarius, anybody that's Libra, this is also a tremendously exciting time for you, because they're Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are all air signs. It's stimulating, it's exciting, ideas are exchanged. And this is you will be supported by Jupiter at this time. You will be asked to grow at this time. You will be asked to grow to the next unfolding of your glorious self. So let's use these 6 months in that way with Jupiter and Gemini. Now, by the way, now some of you, your charts. If you have Gemini rising, if you have a Gemini moon, if you have Venus in Gemini. That's again some of the stuff that we're going to be exploring when I teach this class for the next 10 weeks. But if you don't know that, it's something that you can find out online or through me. But if you do know that, then yeah, even I mentioned the dates of when you were born, but you might know the degree of your rising sign when Jupiter might hit your rising sign. Jupiter right now is at 7 degrees Gemini, and if your rising sign is anywhere after 7 degrees Gemini, it's going to hit your rising sign, which is the point of sole purpose in your life. So for everyone, no matter what, Jupiter in Gemini brings connection, communication, enlivenment. It brings a curiosity. It brings a kind of childlike curiosity that we can all enjoy and that we can all use. Like, what do you want to explore that you haven't explored? The little girl, the little boy in you gets a say right now to say, well, I've always wanted to study photography. I've always wanted to take that class. This is Jupiter in Gemini as well. Okay, but then June 25th, Jupiter moves into Cancer, and it will spend the rest of the year in Cancer, and it will move very, very quickly through Cancer. I mean, it'll spend a year, but it gets to 20 degrees Cancer by the end of the year. So it moves very quickly, and then it'll move back again. But Jupiter in Cancer, Cancer is water. It's a water sign. So it has a profound amount to do with sensitivity and nourishment and caretaking. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with Jupiter in Cancer if worldwide we address the hunger issue more so than we have been, or that focus grows stronger when Jupiter is in Cancer, because Jupiter is benevolence, Jupiter is growth, Jupiter is yes, and Cancer really has to do with nourishment and food. And are we feeding our humanity? Are we feeding our people? But also on your own just individual emotional level, you could ask the question, how can I use this profound sensitivity to feel into my next unfolding? Not just to analyze and dissect and discriminate and figure it out, but how can I use this profound sensitivity? Because cancers feel into everything, and we all are going to get a taste of it with Jupiter in Cancer. How can I use this energy of sensitivity that's available to me to feel in more deeply to what I need, to what others need? Yeah. And also, you could also say, there's a beautiful phrase for Cancer which says, I build a lighted house and therein dwell. So we want to build a big lighted house as humanity. We want humanity to be a lighted house with Jupiter in Cancer. And we could say, for each of us, we could ask ourselves, can my lighted house welcome more to nourish? Who can I hold? Can I just hold my family? Can I just hold my, near and dear? Or can I open the arms to nourish more? So that's an interesting question for us to hold. And anyone who has birthdays basically from June 21st till about July 12th, all you Cancers out there with those birthdays, Jupiter will hit your sun at the end of this year, between June and the end of the year. So again, this tremendous time of growth. Generally, I find when Jupiter hits the sun, people recognize that the way that they have been living, you're ready to occupy more space. You're ready to take more on. You're ready to let go of an old self. Opportunities come your way. Jupiter is called the planet of unsought opportunity. So wherever it is, it's giving this incredible gift, this incredible kiss to that energy. So right now it's in Gemini, giving this incredible gift to connection and enlivenment and relationship and writing but the second half, it will be giving this kiss, this gift, this growth to all of our capacity to nourish more and to feel more compassionate, and to build our lighted houses, to pay attention to our physical, emotional, mental health so that we are indeed lit. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting shift, and we'll pay attention to it. Anytime a major planet shifts, it's powerful. And by the way, anybody who is then Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces will then have the energy of Jupiter available to them at the second half of the year. So if you're a Scorpio or Pisces, you have a trine from Jupiter. In other words, you have a sort of yes across the way to your sun self that's like growing you and offering a big yes in your life. Okay, so That's the Jupiter energy. Now let's look for a moment at where Saturn is. And I've been talking about Saturn for quite a bit because we had this huge shift in this past October. We had this huge shift out of Saturn in Libra, where it was for 2.5 years. So if you have strong Libra in your chart, if you have friends with strong Libra, lovers, people, partners with strong Libra, they were in a huge testing time. But around, I think it was October 5th or 6th, Saturn moved into Scorpio, and it's there for almost 3 years. It's there a little bit longer than usual because Saturn takes about 30 years to go around a chart, spends about 2.5 years in each sign. It just so happens to spend a little longer in Scorpio. So Saturn is where we do our work, and it is where we commit, and it is where we grow up, and it is where we feel our authority. And there are incredible tests with Saturn and Scorpio. And on one hand, astrologers could look at Saturn and Scorpio and they could say, all right, well, this is a time. Saturn at its worst has to do with crystallization and hardening and almost a kind of cruelty. And Scorpio at its worst has to do with negativity and darkness. So, on one hand, I could be an incredibly pessimistic astrologer and say, wow, Saturn and Scorpio, we are going to have to battle crystallized dark negativity, which is true. We are going to have to battle that, and it's a time when it could harden even more, it could intensify even more, it could get even more dark. And in some ways, this is the way I'm sure we all felt with the school shooting. It was like, could it get more dark than this? This is just horrific. And uh, Saturn and Scorpio puts it in our face and says, "Okay, this is dark. How are you going to transform this energy? How are you going to use this energy for transformation?" So, Saturn at its best says, "Let's face the darkness. We must face our own negativity. We must look at our own shadow." We must look at our habitual behaviors that don't serve us. We must look at our reactivity. Yeah. So this is a time where we all have the opportunity to overcome our negativity. And we have and a question for us all to carry with Saturn in Scorpio would be, here's two different ones. How can I become the authority of my own emotional healing? In other words, really take charge of what's not working. It's time. What do I have to do? Do I have to go and do some serious body work? Do I have to go and sit by myself in meditation for a week? What is it that I have to do to overcome some of these negative tendencies? And another question would be, how can I become more responsible for addressing my own fears or emotional reactivity? Because really, this Saturn says grow up. Saturn says grow up here, take responsibility. And if you don't, then you won't be served. If you don't, then the uglier energies can take over. And Scorpio has tremendous reactivity, and Saturn brings in patience. So for all of you that have strong Scorpio right now, I mean, in your charts, rising sign, a stellium in Scorpio, sun sign, moon sign. This is a huge time of taking responsibility for your emotional well being. And it's a huge time of bringing in patience. And for all of us, it's like it's count to 10, because it's easy to snap. And somehow Saturn brings in breath, and somehow Saturn brings in maturity and a responsibility and authorship to the life that you want to lead. So, yeah, you better believe if you have strong Scorpio in your chart, this is your 2.5 year to 3 year period of incredible maturation. And also, if you are Cancer or Pisces, um, Saturn will be in support of your sun signs, or if you have those in rising sign areas, the Saturn energy of maturity, of responsibility, of groundedness, of intelligence will be available to steady some of our chaotic emotionality. And I mean, that's one of the hugest problems we have in society is our emotional bodies run rampant, and we are screaming and shooting at each other, and we have no we are not taking the cool calm of Saturn, before we act. And this is the opportunity with Saturn and Scorpio. So it truly is a tremendous opportunity. And basically, Saturn, if your birthday is between October 27th and November 12th, Saturn will hit your sun this year. And then if not, it'll hit it next year. So it's very, very slow moving. Um, and this is another thing. It's important for you to know exactly when it will hit, and that's, you can learn that through having a reading, or you can learn that through learning to read an ephemeris, or taking a class, whatever it is. But it will hit your sun this year if you're born between October 27th and November 12th. Also, if you know that your rising sign is between 5 degrees and 20 degrees of Scorpio, it will hit. So, but again, an opportunity for us all. Now, isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that right now, Jupiter, the planet of yes, is in an air sign. It's in this energy of kind of lightness and quick, sharp, clever, and external activity. And Saturn, the planet of testing, is in the sign that is radically different than Gemini. It's about like going incredibly deep and addressing the darkness, so you can be the warrior that emerges triumphant. The Scorpio phrase, warrior am I, and from the battle I emerge triumphant. It is Saturn says, yes, you are the warrior, and yes, you will emerge triumphant, but patience, responsibility, duty, all these words that we don't particularly love are required. But isn't it interesting that in some ways what we have to do is do that deep, 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 deep work so that we can share our message with authenticity and with having done the work that we needed to do on ourselves before we start talking about it. If we start blathering about it without actually having addressed what's going on, then we're ineffectual. Yeah. So they're wildly contrasting energies. The tests are occurring in the emotional realm, and the opportunities are occurring in the communication and networking realm. But they're going to clash, and they're going to have to find ways to work together. And my suggestion is that do whatever you need to do to take yourself out of the game, for however long you need to to get it straight, to get it right, to get to even if that means like breathing 10 times in the morning before you enter the day. I mean, I've frankly, just in the last 5 days, have found it such a revelation to not get out of bed and start doing the laundry first thing, but I get out of bed and I roll my little astrological dice, and I sit in bed and I write a couple pages about what's going on. And we all have versions of that, morning pages, whatever. But how do you want to start your day that sets you right so that the reactivity isn't up? All right, I think I've made my point. Okay, so now Uranus, the planet Uranus. Uranus takes 84 years to go around a chart. So this year, as in the year before and the year before, Uranus is in Aries. But this year, it will move between the degrees 4 degrees and 12 degrees. So if your birthday is March 25th to April 2nd, Uranus will hit your sun. And if you are a Leo or a Sagittarius in that same window of time, Uranus will also be lending its energy of authenticity and freedom and enlivenment and radical reinvention to your life. Again, for all of us, Uranus in Aries simply asks, what is the new, bold, authentic way? Uranus in Aries is powerful. This whole 7-year period of Uranus in Aries, and right now I think it was 2011 early. I should know, but I don't. When it moved in, but we're in the middle of a profound 7-year period where Uranus is saying the new ways have to come into being. We have to have a new design. The new, it's as if, like, I sometimes have an image of this beautiful, almost like a city plan. It feels like descending down onto our earth, like like heaven to earth. Uranus brings heaven to earth. Now, What it does first is that there's all kinds of revolutions and rebellions and bloodshed, right? And that's certainly, and this happens in Aries for sure. So that's what we've been seeing for the last couple of years is huge rebellions all over the world, huge revolutions, demand for freedom, demand for expression. Um, and that's happening publicly in humanity, but it's also happening individually. Aries is about coming forth. Aries says, I come forth, and from the plane of mind, I rule. So, for all of us, we're being stimulated to come forth with our bold new idea. We're being stimulated to dare to redefine our lives. And it's one thing to think about it and be like, oh yeah, I want to reinvent, I want more authenticity, but it's another thing to take the smallest action to do so. And they're small actions. Small actions have big ripples. So if you've been doing something forever in a particular way and you change it up just slightly, you might just find yourself in a torrent of tears because you are letting in the tiniest rivulet of the new. So, you know, Uranus and Aries is really what is the new, bold, authentic way. And if you are an Aries, Uranus is working on your life. If you are a Leo, Uranus is working on your life. For that matter, if you're a Sagittarius, Uranus is working on your life, and working on your life in a very let's shake it up and shake it down, and it's not necessarily as painful as it can sometimes be. If however you are well, I mean, I don't want to get too complicated. I'm not going to get too complicated. I'm just going to say that, for example, Cancer or Capricorn or Libra, Uranus is going to be in an opposition relationship or a square, which means that it's really knocking at your door, which means like it's saying, are you going to let me in or not? Because I've been knocking for some time. And I need access to your life. I need access to your life so that we can do some overhauling. So the square is always I always talk about it in terms of like a knocking at the door, because there's part of you that doesn't want to let it in. It's like, oh, it's going to be so disruptive and I'm going to have to rethink it all. But I would just say let Uranus on in. Okay. Okay. Good. So now Neptune is in Pisces, and Neptune is it it moved into Pisces, and it's still at like 0, 1 degrees. It was in Aquarius for 13 or 14 years, only recently moved into Pisces. This year it will be moving between 1 degree Pisces and 5 degree Pisces. So if you have your sun at between 1 and 5 degrees Pisces, if you have your rising sign between 1 and 5 degrees Pisces, any strong position in your chart, Neptune is going to be touching that. And you know what? Neptune and Pisces, again, if you get naysayer astrologers, and yes, or even astrologers that speak of the reality of things, Neptune and Pisces could be a huge sea of addiction. It could be we could go terribly awry in the realm of virtual reality, and because Neptune has to do with fantasy, and it has to do with drugs, and it has to do with escape. So we could have a huge desire to escape from the harsh realities. But Neptune is the work that it really wants to do in Pisces is it wants to open the heart. Both of the Neptune loves to be in Pisces because Pisces is the sign of compassion and Neptune is the planet of compassion. So I just say to you, with Neptune and Pisces, how often can we choose compassion for ourselves and for others? And that's the question that's being asked for the next huge number of years. At least let's say next 10, 11, 12 years is, how often can I choose compassion? So if your birthday is February 20th to the 24th, approximately, Neptune will be on your sun. And when Neptune is active in a chart, if it's on your ascendant, on your sun, on your moon, it washes away your identity as you know it. It washes it away like an ocean wave. And you're left in a space of not knowing. You're left in a space of bewilderment. You're left in a space where you feel raw. It's like the poem that I read where when you, what is it? What was the phrase? Your belly is raw, your back is tender, you are rudimentary now. When Neptune is at work in your life, there's a rawness, there is a profound sensitivity. You feel everything. And the good news for humanity is that we better start to feel more of what we're doing to ourselves and to the earth and to our planet and to one another, you know. And so Neptune and Pisces, there's an opportunity to open that up. So, it's the energy of unconditional love, just right there at the center of the heart. It's the universal heart. And this is a meditation that's going to go on for many years. So it would be very important for you to know where Neptune is transiting in your chart, because wherever it's transiting, whatever house it's in, it is bringing inspiration, sensitivity, love, boundless, unconditional love to that area. And it's also, it could also be bringing confusion and illusion and bewilderment until you grow still and listen. Yeah. So, likewise, when I was talking about Uranus, for example, if you're a Virgo, Gemini, or Sagittarius, Neptune, and of course it depends on what degree, but Neptune is going to be eventually over the years squaring those positions. So it's going to be knocking at the door of particularly early Geminis, like if you're born early in Gemini or early in Sagittarius or early in Virgo at this point. It's going to be working on your life and saying, knock, knock, knock. Will you let me in? Will you let in self-compassion? Will you let in um, more sensitivity? Will you let in listening? Will you let in poetry? Will you let in music? Will you let in the wordless? Yeah. Okay. And now the final position that we're going to look at is Pluto. And Pluto, likewise, takes over 200 years to go around a chart. It's been in Capricorn now for some years. It stays 15 to 20 years in each sign. But wow, is it doing its work. And this year it will be between 9 and 11 degrees Capricorn. So if you are born December 30th to January 1st, it's a very short window. Pluto will be on your sun. Or if you're 9, 10, 11 degrees rising or moon, it will be on your rising sign or moon. Pluto is breaking down old structures. It's like what we were talking about with Uranus and Cancer. It's like the revolution, breaking away with the past. But Pluto and Capricorn would say, how can I continue to shed outmoded ways? And how can I crack open what has crystallized so a greater flow can begin? And sometimes it's the most beautiful thing in the world to have that grace, to have that crack open, because even just that trickle of flow is so healing when you've been holding something for so long. I mean, Pluto in Capricorn is like having Pluto sit next to Saturn, and Saturn crystallizes, and Pluto says, let's break up anything that is outmoded. Let's break up the old. That's why all this is going on for many years, all the banks, all the housing, everything's just breaking apart in terms of how we have structured the way that our world works. And we have to bring in a much more Uranian energy now. Saturn is not the energy that we're bringing in. So, Pluto in Capricorn helps a profound healing. But it requires surrender. It requires letting go. It requires trusting that we can't all insanely control our lives, that we have to open to let something great, some greater grace move through. So, and again, if you are Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, or Libra, Pluto is at work. Pluto's at work in your chart, and it's also at work, I would say, with greater ease and greater grace if you're a Taurus or a Virgo, because those are Earth signs, and Pluto's in Capricorn, an Earth sign, so it will be having a harmonious connection with those, saying Pluto is the planet of will and power, and it wants to lend its will and power to you. So, it's interesting just to think about those planets and how you can work with them. And if something resonated with you, like if one of the planets was just like, oh my gosh, that energy is the energy that I need, just put the glyph of that planet, the image of that planet at your heart, and sit for 5 minutes in the morning and, use these invoke these energies they're available to us. We want to dance with these energies. I want to tell you just two more things. One of them is that we are also, and it's no surprise, we are in the middle of this huge square between Pluto and Uranus. And it's more of what I've been saying. But May 20th and November 1st of this year, we have two more hits of Pluto square Uranus. I think it hits 7 times total. And Pluto Uranus is freedom, revolution, sudden, sometimes upsetting experiences around death and rebirth. You know, you can feel like these explosions, these volcanic eruptions on our planet around what humanity is doing to itself. But it's also the energy that is breaking and making way for the new. So it's uncomfortable, it's tense, it's uh, learning to use power in new ways, and we're succeeding in that in some ways and not in others. But there's a square, which is creative friction, so it's almost like a gridlock until there's enough breakdown that the soil is ready for something new to be planted. But the intensity continues, what can I say? And that's why the compassion of Neptune in Pisces is needed. Very much so. And then also the Jupiter in Cancer is deeply needed. The big feeling, the big desire to nourish. People always like to know Mercury retrograde, and I think it is important to know Mercury retrograde period. So, just write these down. Mercury will be retrograde February 23rd through March 17th. Put it in your calendar. It will be retrograde again June 26th through July 20th. And it will be retrograde again October 21st through November 10th. The big deal with that is, as much as possible, turn inward. Obviously, you can't take 3 weeks and just be like, I'm turning inward. But it's not a time to be out there signing contracts, flying across the globe. Or even if you have to fly across the globe, allow it to be a review of what has come before. Retrograde is a review. Retrograde is a turning inward. Retrograde is like, okay, what has happened between January and February 23rd? Let's look at that. And then later, what has happened between March and June, between these periods of retrogradation. And so it's not, oh, it's horrible, but yes, equipment can break down and computers can go awry and all of this, but mostly if you can, use those periods for retreat. I often plan my Radiant Life retreats with Mercury retrograde. I run the risk of having people arrive at, or have difficulty arriving. But once we arrive, there's this incredibly beautiful opportunity to dive deep and review our lives. And in fact, this upcoming retreat, March 14th through 17th, is during the Mercury retrograde time. And interestingly, just as we end the retreat in Ojai on March 17th, it will go direct. So that which we reviewed, that which we took in and meditated upon, we then can go out and act upon. So good. So let me just I want to read you another couple poems, but I also just want to show you one quick thing about, here, I'm going to bring this up. This is the class that I'm going to be teaching. There I am, all happy. And just very quickly, what happened? Very quickly, I'm going to start Tuesday night, January 15th, and it will go every Tuesday night from 6:30 to 8 Pacific time. And each time I'm not doing a very good job showing you this, but basically look to HeidiRose.com/charting-your-course 2013. And every week we're going to look at a different planetary placement. So we're going to look at your sun, we're going to look at your moon, we're going to look at Pluto, and we're also going to look at the transits. Yeah, there we go. I'll just show you this here. And this is all on my website, HeidiRose.com/charting-your-course 2013. But this is the breakdown of the weeks. And I'm very, very excited to do this because I think that there's an opportunity, even if you don't really want to learn astrology, you can learn a tremendous amount about how you can work in the world with the energies that are available to you, and times of opportunity that so many people ask me, like, oh, when should I launch this class, or when should I put my book out? This is the kind of thing we want to look at, that you can look at with astrology. But for example, week 4, we're going to study the planet of love, wisdom, Venus. What is deeply soul satisfying for you? And guess what? If you know what's deeply soul satisfying for you, you want to do more of that. So we'll be looking at your very specific placement, and we'll be also looking at where the transits are, like all these transits that I just described to you just now. Where are they in your chart? That's what we want to know. Where are they in your chart, and what area is it affecting? Is it affecting your area of relationship? Are you having to revolutionize relationship? Is it affecting your career? Are you having to break down career in a whole new way? Is it affecting your home life? This is where we can get very specific. So I just invite you to check out the website after we fit complete, and also don't hesitate to ask me any questions. So let me share 2 little poems with you. Actually, one more by M. Claire. And let these poems be sounding notes for the new year, and let them be invitations and inspirations for a different way for us to proceed. This one is called To Love Yourself, and it's by M. Claire. And you have to, as you listen to these words, you can do it. You can do what she says. I will do it. It's so beautiful. To love yourself, start here. Take your own hand, put it to your lips, then lay the soft of your cheek to the round of your shoulder, where the faint musk of the enduring dreams and the labors of your life perfume you. It's a start. It's a beginning. Now the ache of your heart has a surface. But it does, because the minute that we pay attention to our body, and the minute we, make contact with our body, and the minute we presence ourselves and just grow still, then the ache of your heart has a surface, and you can feel it, and it can't be in your head any longer. It can't be like this some abstract thing. So let the ache of your heart have a surface, and then all kinds of glorious healing can begin. And here, I'm going to show you a pretty picture. Look at this. Isn't that great? That's what we all want to do. Shine our hearts out into the world. That's what I had. I made a collage of my chart, and that was what I had for my Leo rising self. So this one is this is how I'll end. And this is David White. And I'd never heard this poem before, and I bought this new book that's his collection of new and old poems. And I think this is, I don't know, I never have heard it, and that's rare because I know most of his poetry, but it's called Learning to Walk. And just feel as I read it, the invitation, the energy, and let's learn to walk together in this new year in a new way. I have incredible high hopes and practical applications about what I'm going to do in this year to walk differently. So he says, walked out this morning into a broad green garden with the rising sun in my eyes and the first hint of the day's heat touching my face, feeling as broad as the garden and young as the day, and soaking up the heat in my black t-shirt, walked straight forward out of the gate, through the wood, along the river, toward the mountain, and thought of the future I could make in the world if I walked toward it like this, with my face toward the hills and my eyes full of light, and the earth sure and solid beneath me, walking on with a fierce anticipation and a faithful expectation, with the sun and the rain and the wind on my skin, and the old sense I remember at 20 of many paths breaking from one path. As if the body could walk forever, as if we could all walk and keep on walking from one path to another, noting and loving again the wonders of the turning world, calling to each of us like old friends and new, discovered and rediscovered, all of them waiting like we'd never left them, walking as if we'd always been faithful, walking as if sharp and present enough to know true friends as we met them, walking as if mature enough to keep them for a lifetime, walking as if, for instance, we had all learned how to give all our money away, watching it return without a shirt on its back, happy and singing, telling stories, and introducing us to brilliant company, walking as if we could be dangerous again, dangerous in our generosity, refusing to save for our retirement, upsetting father in laws and financial advisors, teachers and preachers, adjudicating journalists, mothering ministers, and self important judges, walking as if enlightened and elegant, piratical and pragmatic, abroad in the cross current conversation of the world, our solid path, day by day, becoming beneath our feet a sea course, a heading on a wide horizon, an ocean's mere inclination to flow, a compass line to possibility, a sea edge of probability. So, learning to walk in the morning light like this again will take a first step toward mortality, out of the garden, through the woods, along the river, toward the mountain. It's simple. That's what we'll do, practicing as we go. And we'll be glimpsed, traveling westward, no longer familiar, a following wave, greeted as we were at our birth, as probable and slightly dangerous strangers, some wild risk about to break again on the world. Love that. Let's all be a wild risk. Let's all take a wild risk about to break again on the world. And let's walk and keep walking and practice and keep practicing and keep our hearts open. And that is the way that I invite us all to live into 2013. So, my dear friends, thank you for being with me. And I'm deeply grateful for your attention and your presence. And please don't hesitate to contact me with any questions. And I'll have a recording of this up shortly, and you can also share it with your pals if you want to. So, mwah, thank you. Happy 2013, and I hope to see you all in some form soon. Next Radiant Life Retreat, March 14th through 17th. Bye, loves.